Welcome back. If your brain ever feels like it's stuck in overdrive, running through 100 what ifs before you've even had your coffee for the morning, well, this episode, it's for you. Today, we're going to be talking about generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. The kind of anxiety that doesn't wait for a big event or a crisis, it just shows up. It can be in a traffic jam, in the shower, at a grocery store, in the middle of the night. It's like an alarm clock that never shuts off. We'll start with my personal experience with anxiety, and I feel like I've had anxiety for a good amount of years, probably 10, maybe more. I think that at first I didn't realize what I was feeling was anxiety. I always get, right at the top of my abdomen is kind of like I wouldn't say burning, but it's there and I can feel it. And that's usually when everything starts. For me, it was always, and still is, always at night. I always said, as the sun goes down, I knew I was going to be unwell. And it just always felt like I could never get out of my head. My head was just running at 100 miles an hour, and it didn't matter what I was doing to help it or stop it. It took a really long time. It wasn't until that the anxiety started to affect my personal life and my work life. It got to the point where if I was presented with a question like, what would you like for dinner? Would you like a hamburger or a hot dog? I couldn't even make that simple, basic decision because it gave me so much anxiety because I thought that I was going to be, making the wrong choice when at the time I couldn't even see that how silly that sounds, that how could you even make a wrong choice? You're deciding what you want for dinner. There's no wrong answer, right? And pretty much since then, I have been on medication for it. And it's helped. My anxiety is pretty much under control. I've learned coping skills. I call it my merry-go-round now, and do know how to get off of it. And then a little tip that was told to me that if for some reason, even though I know how to get off of it, maybe it's just a particularly bad day, if I can't get off of it, if I physically touch something and I say, I'm shutting off the merry-go-round, or, whatever thing that, if you have something like that, or I'm stopping this so that, I'm physically touching something, I'm stopping this merry-go-round so that it doesn't move anymore, that can help. And it actually has helped me significantly. Sometimes I can feel it coming on, and at that point it's too early for me to mentally tell myself to stop. So I do physically touch something, and generally it stops almost immediately. So today we're going to hear from another fellow podcaster who has been through her own journey, and she has some trauma that she'll talk about, and she'll talk about her podcast. She also will let us know about some of her anxiety and what she does to get through it. So please hang around and take a listen to her story. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, so I'm Allie. Thank you so much for coming on today. If you want to just introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Allie. I'm really excited. And my name is Tracy. I'm actually the host of my own podcast called Trauma Rockstars. So that's a podcast I created for people who have survived trauma, and depending on what stage they are in their journey of recovery, I wanted to kind of create a community where we can support each other and also have really amazing guests on so they can share what has worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, and just provide additional tools that people might not know is available out there for them, as well as creating the safe space to talk and share their stories.
Awesome. Yeah. So pretty similar. And I love that because I don't think that things are talked about enough at all. And it's very isolating to feel like you're the only one.
Yes, 100%. And that people, you don't need to suffer in silence or be alone.
Right, right. So what got you into that? Like, was it personal for you, or did you just decide, hey, we need some help?
Both. But it started out my own personal journey. I went through major trauma when I was younger. I was in an accident at 12 years old, and then I was sexually assaulted at 15. And I can go into more details about that. But when I realized I had been suffering this trauma and compressing it for years, like 40 years, I realized like something had to change. And when I started doing some really deep thinking and I started meditating and I really started to try and figure out like what was going on, I had like several aha moments. But the biggest one was, oh, well, this explains why I've never felt stable. I've never felt safe. I've never really been able to 100% let my guard down and let somebody fully in. Why I made a lot of the bad choices I've made in the past. Like we've all made bad choices.
Right.
But why I made those choices, and why I chose to have certain people in my life. What was I attracting? And I was a mess, honestly. And I realized how much of suppressing that trauma put on my nervous system. And because it's not just your emotional health, it's your whole body. And when I started really taking a deep dive into that, I was like, well, that explains why I'm the way I am. And then I realized I'm not broken. I'm traumatized. And I also realized that there isn't anything wrong with me. I was just coping the best way I could. And for years, we didn't have the tools we have now to understand suppression, emotion, anxiety, your nervous system, like how that all is linked together. And now we have so much material and resources out there that I think it just took me so long because of that. Because back in the day when all this happened, we didn't have these resources. And I really felt nobody could help me. I didn't feel like there was anybody out there who understood, what I was going through, or that I even felt safe to talk to. I didn't tell my parents, my brother, my best friend that I had, for years. Nobody. I never told a soul about the sexual assault. And why is that? Because I just never felt that there was anybody there that would understand. And now there is, like, there's so many people who can understand. And one thing that I've learned is I've talked to so many people, as I'm sure you have, and people don't realize, like, there's little things. People are like, I've never been through trauma. Well, we just went through a pandemic, and that was trauma for the world. So you have been through trauma, and everybody has been, but there's no one size fits all, and there's no trauma that's too small or too big. Trauma's trauma. So, and I never want people to feel like, well, I didn't go through what you went through. It doesn't matter. You still went through it. So let's help you, get you through it too. And I don't want people to feel they're alone. So that's kind of sums up in a nutshell, like why I'm at where I'm at with this. And Trauma Rock Stars, the name, back in the day, I used to work in the music industry for years. And so that's where the name Trauma Rock Stars came from, because we are all trauma rock stars. Like if you're trying to better yourself, you're a rock star, So that's kind of where the name came up. And it's such a huge, I'm so passionate about it. And it's such a huge passion project of mine. And, I feel if I can just help one person, I'm grateful for the platform. And it's getting people talking. There's people that have never even thought about trauma and healing, and they're actually even just, maybe they're not talking about it, but they're starting to think. So it's working. It's working.
That's great. No, and I do like that you mentioned about, the size of trauma, right? Because even myself, I was like, no, I don't really think I've ever, been through anything traumatic. And I currently, not that long ago, just found a therapist that I actually like, and I feel like now I can like tell her whatever I want. And she's like, really? You don't think you have any trauma at all? I was like, I don't think so. Like, I had like a fine childhood, like an early adulthood's fine. And then she started asking me questions, and I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
trauma? Got it. I was like, so actually, yeah, I do have, some.
And I mean, that's the thing. And I think it's amazing that you found somebody that is able to bring that out in you, because I never was able to find that. And I've been through therapy for years, of course, even right after my accident when I was 12 years old. Like, I had so much therapy and nothing ever worked. Like, I never felt somebody could really understood. And that's such a gift that she's able to bring that out in you. Because I think it helps you get to the forefront, and we can't get through something until we face it, right? Until you're standing in front of that door. So, and I mean, I'm guessing we're quite a bit far apart in age. And one thing too that I really want to talk about this a lot more, and I do have some specialists coming on, is once you start to hit 40 and perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, like, that is a trauma. People have no idea what women go through when they start going, and what it does to your body, and the changes that happen and things like that. And so that's something I'm really passionate about talking about too, because that's people suffer for years going through it. And again, you don't have to suffer. And that's another form of trauma. So it doesn't have to be like this horrific thing that happens in your life. One thing that really brought me through to the other side of my journey, and I'll never be fully healed. Like, I'm always trying to get deeper and better myself. But the one thing that got me to the other side is I did MDMA therapy.
Mm.
Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but if you want to just explain a little bit more.
So it's plant-based medicine, and it's your guide. You do it and are guided with the actual therapist, like a person that specializes in this. And what MDMA is it's a form. It's the key ingredient that's in ecstasy, but it's medicine though. It's a pill, and it's given to you by, again, a therapist, but it's not like you're thinking like ecstasy, you're going and you're seeing pink elephants. It's not like that. It's what it does is it helps you completely conscious. You remember everything, get really deep into your subconscious. So one thing when I first heard about MDMA, and then I really started doing some research, one thing that is really interesting about it, because like you said, you don't feel like you hadn't felt like you'd ever been through trauma. Well, there was one person that went through MDMA therapy, and they just felt stuck. They just felt like this null in life. They just felt stuck. They didn't know why. And they just wanted to figure that out. So they went and did the MDMA therapy. And what came out is something somebody had said to them when they were 6 years old.
Wow.
That they had just been carrying. I mean, I have no idea how old this person is, but they had just been carrying this all these years and didn't even realize it, whether it was, how whatever they said that just resonated, and they had just been suppressing that. It could be something as little as that you don't even realize. And like you said, like you were surprised, like she brought out stuff and you're like, wow, okay, I never thought about that or thought about it that way. And I just needed, because I had done years of work already. So I had just needed to get really deeper and get like to that next step for me, for my healing journey. So that's why I picked MDMA. And it's not for everyone, but they do use it a lot in soldiers with PTSD. It's very, very effective. And the one thing that's so amazing about the MDMA is what it does is it takes about 45 minutes to an hour for the pill, to start kicking in. And when it starts kicking in, what it does is it's hard to explain, but it gives you this deeper look within, but through a lens of love and compassion. So I was kind of going into it thinking, am I going to get because when I had my car accident, I had a horrible head injury, so I don't remember it. So I'm like, am I going to get re-traumatized? Going into that, remembering that experience, that this and that. And it's nothing like that. What it does is it gives you, space to dig deep within your soul, I guess you would say, and bring out feelings and emotions that you never have felt before. And what it does is it helps your nervous system release all of that tension that you've been carrying for however many years. And it was impossible. Like, I thought I was going to go in and come out and be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm mad at this person. I'm mad at this person. And it's the complete opposite. It gives you a really feeling of just like love and compassion. And you look at yourself with love and compassion. And, when you meditate, you do a lot of inner child work when you're meditating. And that it really helps you look at that at a much deeper level. And it's almost like it's such a gift that what I went through with the MDMA. It just gives yourself the ability to be that person that you've needed somebody to be for you, but you're that person, and give yourself a huge hug and love. And it was just an incredible experience all around. And I only did it once. This is just one time. And one thing about it, like when you have trauma and you suppress all of those feelings for years, what it does is it completely shuts off any happiness in your brain, your endorphins, all the happy chemicals, your endorphins and all that. What the MDMA does is it turns the switch back on. It's incredible. Like, literally turns it back on instantly, and it doesn't shut off. Like, once you're done, that switch is on and it's not turning back off. So it brings out all these different feelings that you haven't had. And it was just such a profound experience for me doing that. And it was, like I said, it was just a gift. And my therapist was incredible. I think the biggest thing, and I actually had her on my podcast, I think the biggest thing, if somebody does decide to do something like that, is to find the right therapy center, have the right connection and bond with your therapist, and you need to feel 100% safe. You just can't dive right in,
Right. Yeah, especially because you have no idea what you're about to expect. And that's scary and anxiety-inducing in itself.
So I was literally like shitting my pants. Okay. It was kind of like if you go on a roller coaster, you're excited, but you're super nervous at the same time. And you just don't know like how it's going to feel. And so that was kind of how I was doing it, but I wasn't turning back. I knew I wasn't turning back. So, and it was funny, the day I had scheduled to go do it, we were running late. We had gotten the wrong address. So we were running like late. So by the time I got there and I flew in, she's like standing there. She's like, here's your pill. And I didn't even have time to chicken out if I wanted to. I'm like, okay. I took it and that was it.
So I know that recently I've been hearing about multiple things, the MDMA, they have like mushrooms, and there's another one. But were you able to do it in the United States, or did you have to go out of the country?
No, I found a place here in Florida.
Oh, okay,
so
perfect.
Once I started researching, I actually found a place here in Florida because it is illegal in some places. The FDA banned it, and I believe it was 1984 because it was legal up until then. But then when the street drug ecstasy came out, it freaked the FDA out and they banned it. Even though it's not ecstasy, you don't know what you're getting on the street. I mean, this is something guided by a physician. You know what I mean? So there are still places that you can get it legally and everything. So I was able to find this place in Florida, in St. Pete, actually, this therapy center. And I did, and there were some other places I found too, like down in Miami, there's some, and some other places in the country. But I really connected with this place. It's called Bionic Bloom. And there was a lot of work that needed to be done before I was even approved to do it. So it's not just something, you have to make sure it's right for you and it's the right modality. But my insurance covered it. The only thing I had to pay for out of pocket was the actual medicine itself, which it wasn't expensive. And it like all the stars aligned. I would have traveled like out of the country if I had to, but all the stars just aligned for it to happen.
That's great, because I think, we have such different rules from other countries. So, a lot of people I've heard have been going out of the United States to get those, I guess what we would call unconventional, but really it's probably more conventional and natural than what we do here in the United States. So it's good to know that, there is something here in the United States for people.
Yeah. And one thing, doctors here love to prescribe antidepressants and anxiety medication and things like that. And there is nothing wrong with that. If it helps you, I'm like, go for it. But that wasn't for me, because for me, I just felt like if I was taking that, I was masking what was going on. And I'm just prolonging my healing journey, right? So I really wanted to find, and I try to be really conscious with what I put in my body anyway, but as I go and do MDMA, but I try to be really conscious about it. And I feel that I just wanted to get to the root of everything. I was just ready. And MDMA just felt like it was the right move. I did research, a lot of people, they're talking about ketamine therapy and stuff like that. That I researched that, and that kind of freaked me out. I mean, that's like a horse tranquilizer and anesthesia. And that didn't feel right for me. I know it has helped so many people. So everybody's different, but for me personally, it wasn't the route I wanted to go.
Right. Yeah. So I think that, like you said, like not everything is going to fit everybody. And,
Right.
like therapy, I feel like that's kind of like a 50-50 for people. For me personally, until I found this girl now, after 10 years, I was like, you know what? This isn't for me. And then I realized, I was like, you know what? I need to look at this like as a dating perspective, because if I'm not comfortable talking to you, I'm not going to talk to you, right? And if I don't trust you enough, I'm still not going to talk to you. So me just going in and seeing some random person and I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't going to work. Like, why would I continue, right? And I think that's kind of what worked for me. And I'm still pretty early in my healing journey.
Yeah.
With a lot of denial for a lot of years. So I think, hopefully I'll be going a little bit quicker.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the one thing, like I still have denial for certain things, like just because I went through this huge, like awakening, I guess you'd call it, just without sounding too cheesy. And like, I'm not done. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. I don't think it's ever going to end, but and with you, the fact that like you can admit that and you found somebody that you can talk to and you feel comfortable with and bring out those layers that normally you wouldn't be able to, that's half the battle. And, and just to be willing to, really dig deep it's so important, and it's scary because I think a lot of people don't talk about it. And or like I didn't tell anybody about my sexual assault. It's all out of fear, and there were so many different reasons I was afraid. I was ashamed. I was afraid of how people were going to react. I was afraid of the aftermath. I was afraid of getting the police involved. I was afraid of, being pulled out of high school. There were so many different layers of fear in there. And that's the only reason that holds us back from anything is fear. But I want people to know that it's okay to be, if you're like, I'm not scared, you are. If you're not, but it's okay to be scared. Like, don't be ashamed of being scared. Just try and just give yourself a break, do the best you can, and do it at your own pace.
Right. Yeah. There's one thing that I don't want to talk about, and I know I need to, and I probably will eventually, but it's just like, I told her, I was like, I don't really want to talk about that. And again, I was like, I'm not scared. Like, I already went through that. Why would I be scared? But then I realized that it was the fear of the feelings I was going to feel, right? Yeah. Like, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel sad about it. I don't want to feel anything about that again, right? Because I already been there, done that. I don't want to bring anything else up. So again, it's just like, you don't realize it.
And two, you're pretty smart. I think that, especially if you feel a safe place with her, she's the person that you want to talk about it with, because you can keep it there and then go out and live your life in the rest of the world. That's the one space. But I think the one thing that, and I think this, is once you start talking about bringing it out, you might take a step back, but you'll take one step back, but I swear you will take 10 steps forward once you do that. And, but it's so scary. It's so, and it might bring up other things, but that's all okay, as long as you're doing it in a safe place. And when you're ready, there's no, and you might never want to, whatever it is, you might never want to bring it up and talk about it. And that's okay too. Like, there's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to talk about it. There's people that go through horrific things and they never want to talk about it again the rest of their lives. Just the fact that you say that and talk about it is healing. So just, I think with anybody that has anything like that, because now I'm an open book. I mean, literally, when I launched the podcast, literally 2 weeks before I launched the podcast, I told my parents about the sexual assault, because I knew they were going to, obviously it's out. And my brother, I sat them down privately and told them about it, because I knew the world was gonna, like, I'm an open book now, how it is with the podcast. Like, I put it all out there. And so I had to tell my parents, and this is just recent, so it's not the type of thing that you don't have to go all out there with it. That's not, that's not a protocol, it's just whatever your journey's your journey.
Right. So emotions and feelings and stuff. Did you ever feel like any type of anxiety?
I had some last night.
Okay. So we still have that. Do you remember or think when was the earliest age you think you felt some sort of anxiety that you can?
I look back, it's funny. Nobody's ever asked me that. It's funny because I look back at my teens and, my early young adult life and things like that. And I don't really know if I had anxiety as much as insecurity. It was more, and you walk into a room, right? And you're at wherever you're at, like a party or an event or something, you walk into a room, you walk in and you start getting these weird feelings. Is it anxiety or is it insecurity? So for me, that was insecurities. My anxiety did not start hitting until I was in my late 30s.
Okay.
And do you want to know what brought it out? I had never had a panic attack in my entire life. I had never had an anxiety attack. I just, like I said, had been uncomfortable and insecure before. But I was actually trying to get pregnant. And I went through the IVF. And the IVF medication brought on such severe anxiety. I literally wanted to kill myself. It was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And women that go through IVF, I have such a compassion for, because for that to bring out the panic attack and the anxiety that I have, it never stopped after that. And
Mm.
it was almost like it woke a sleeping bear. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. So I've got these new feelings that I've never felt before. And the anxiety will get so bad. And for some reason, it's worse at night.
Yes.
And so I dealt with that for it never stopped. I'm still getting anxiety. After I did the MDMA though, the anxiety went down to a fraction. And now, like I was getting anxious last night actually, and it was at night. And so I've learned like breath work and meditation and ways to try and, you know, lessen it and everything. But honestly, like it's gotten so much better now. But I'm not going to say I'm never going to be anxious again, because we're still going through life, and life still happens. And it's not like that MDMA switch goes on and you're healed. That's not, it helps a lot, but it doesn't help to the point where, you need to learn the tools to manage it.
Right. Yeah. I always joke. I shouldn't. It's not really a joke because it's the truth. But I'm always like, "Oh, the sun's about to go down. Like, here comes the anxiety."
And sometimes even saying the word anxiety will make me anxious. I was meditating this morning, and she brought up the word anxious, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go." But it didn't. It didn't. But sometimes it could be that simple. It's just. Because it is it's the worst feeling in the world. You feel so helpless. You feel, and to get yourself out of that, I truly feel the only way to do it is through breathing and breath work. It's the only way that you can cut it off at the pass before it even gets super bad, or get yourself out of it. Because sometimes it hits so fast, you don't even have time to cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of need to learn the tools, and I'm still learning, I'm still learning, how to do all this. But yeah, I had anxiety last night, if you want to know the truth.
Well, I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
And yeah, I call my anxiety like a merry-go-round. And sometimes I really like postpartum was not a great time for me, but it was, I remember this very distinctly. It was like in the middle of the night, probably like 2 a.m. And I was sitting there rocking, and I was just like, oh, this is really not great, honestly. And I was like, gosh, I just feel like I'm on this merry-go-round and it's just out of hand and they can't stop it. And I just keep going around and around and around and around. And that, I don't know, something clicked, because now I recognize when I'm about to step on that. And it used to take hours for me to get off of the merry-go-round, so to say. But now I can pretty much stop it anytime I want. But it took me years to figure that out, because I was like, I cannot get out of my head. It felt, well, again, I was just like out of uncontrolled merry-go-round. Like,
yeah, it's like you almost have to picture it like it's not plugged in, so it can't turn, so it can't spin you out of control either. But some days are better than others. Some days you can just nail it and you're good after, a few minutes. And then some days it's not. And it's just, I don't know. I started journaling a lot, and somebody had told me, because I know people use digital journals a lot, but someone had told me that writing it down clears it out of both sides of your brain. Where when you're typing, it doesn't. So they're like, write it down first and then put it in your digital journal if you want. But there's something about writing it down that it just clears it out of both sides of your brain. Well, I'm not going to get up at 2 a.m. and start writing. And you have kids, so you're like, no, but it does help the next morning if I write down and I know you're supposed to actually write your thoughts down before you go to bed to help clear your mind, but I haven't gotten I haven't gotten that far yet because by the time I'm ready to go to bed, I'm ready to go to bed.
Right.
So, but there's all kinds of it's like the little things that make the big difference. So there's all these little things you can do.
Right. And I do write things down. I don't write it down for my anxiety though, which is why, I don't know. Mostly because I feel like I don't realize I'm anxious until I'm laying in bed and I suddenly can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm good. I usually do that for like my depression, or like if somebody said something to me today and it's just really still bothering me and it is really not that big of a deal. Once I write it down, it's like, okay, I feel better. Like,
yeah,
just weird little things that, like you said, the little things that you just sometimes don't even think of until someone tells you and you're like, really? It's that simple sometimes?
Yeah, and it can be that simple. It just depends, I guess, who you're hearing it from, where you're at emotionally when you're receiving it, and things like that. And it's funny because I'm a terrible journaler, and I really am trying to get more into it because I am already seeing the benefits from it. So I'm trying to give myself that 5 minutes a day, to write in it. And then sometimes days will go by and I'll forget, but I'm trying to like, I was writing in it and I'm trying to be all cute. Like, oh, I had such this, trying to be positive, like live in a state of gratitude. So I'm trying to write everything I'm grateful for, the great things that happened today, this and that. When deep down, I'm really pissed off about something. My therapist told me two things that so resonated to me, and it's made such a difference. She goes, first, write in the mirror. When you're journaling, write to yourself while you're looking in the mirror, almost like you're giving yourself a little therapy session. And she's like, stop censoring your journal. If you want to write that you're fucking pissed off at this person or this has happened, write it down. Why are you censoring your own journal? You need to get that out of your head. And here's me. I'm like, all these cute things, stickers. I have like I bought these cute little stickers at the dollar store that I put in. And she's like, that is not what this is for. Mm-hmm. Like, this is for you to get it all out and stuff. And she's like, who cares? Like if I'm pissed off at my boyfriend that day. And she goes, why are you afraid to write that in there? Are you afraid of who's going to see it? And I'm like, no, not really. And she's like, well, stop censoring your own words. And she's so those two things that she told me. And this is my therapist I did the MDMA with because I still meet with her. I'm like, that you are so right. Why am I doing that? Because I want that out of my brain. I want it all out. Mm-hmm. And so, because I've always felt like, well, if I write it down and put it down, it's going to be out in the universe then. But you're actually doing the opposite. You're releasing it from your own energy. So your own energy that can go out to the universe is positive now. You're not carrying that negative, mad, whatever state, So those are just two little things that have helped.
And it's kind of funny that you say that because I feel like, so me personally, I always say like I'm a negative person because I'm very much like expect the worst, hope for the best. Mm-hmm. So I'm prepared for anything, right? So I was never one of those people who wrote positive things down because I'm like, it's for me, what I think, of course, I'm like, well, I'm already thinking negative. So like it would be more work for me to try to figure out what was positive. But I think sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, you just cannot be a negative person. Like your whole life is going to be horrible. That's obviously not the case for me. I have a good life, a great life. I'm fine. So I think like you're writing stuff down to be positive, to feel positive, to do that. But like you said, really you needed to get the quote unquote negative, those emotions that we say are bad, out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and everything, like everything we put out there is energy. And so, like I believe in God, I pray every day, but I also meditate and I'm very spiritual. So I know that what I put out is what I'm going to get back. So why would I carry that in? Why would I carry that anger in me? I don't want that coming out of my body. So, like with you, the fact that you are the opposite, I think you should still keep doing that.
Hmm.
Because no, you don't have to be a good, perfect person all the time. You can't, it's impossible.
Right, right. So let's see, we covered a lot. Is there anything maybe that we missed that you would like, people to know about, even if it's just something random?
I think, well, again, I talk about my entire journey on my podcast. Like the first 5 episodes are about what what my trauma has been, why I'm doing what I'm doing, what I've been through, and then after the 5th episode, it's all these. I have all these amazing guests. Which, if you would love to be on, I would love it if you were on. But I think if you want to know more about that, you can watch those. There a lot of them are very heavy, but there's a lot of truth. Like I love that your podcast is called Unfiltered because it is. It's all unfiltered. It's just very raw and the guests that I have had on are very raw too. I have everyone from people who've been through major trauma to amazing healers and therapists and who've gone through trauma in their own journeys that explain what's gotten them to the other side. But I don't want to get too deep into everything with me, but I think if anybody's curious about it, it really helps to listen to other people's stories because you don't necessarily have to talk about your own. It's okay if you don't want to do that, but it really helps listen to other people's stories because it really does make you feel like there's people out there that can understand. And it does help like you're talking with your therapist. That it helps to just be able to talk about your own story. So I just want people to be brave, not beat yourself up if you're scared. And just know that there's resources out there for you if you want them, and people like us out there that could help you if you need a shoulder to cry on or just to talk to. So
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. And are you on any platform for your podcast or is there somewhere specific?
So it's all Trauma Rock Stars. On YouTube is the video versions, and then all other podcast platforms. It's Trauma Rock Stars on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And you can reach us through there, and it's very easy. I know some people have different wording and different platforms, but I was lucky enough to just get Trauma Rock Stars across the board, so it's so easy to remember. And email is all of that's on the links for it. So
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
thank you. This is great.
Yeah.
All right, perfect, Allie. Thank you so much.
All right. Yes. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye. So we covered a lot in that interview, and I think we heard a lot of great things. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us. But here's the thing, like, anxiety isn't just worrying too much. It's literally your nervous system stuck on high alert. Your body thinks it's in danger, and when it can't find the danger, it invents it. That's why you're convinced that suddenly your boss hates you or your headache is a brain tumor and now you have, terminal cancer. But it feels absolutely real. And it's super exhausting to carry this and continue to experience it, especially if it's daily. So what do we do? How do we even start? Well, you heard a couple of things in the interview before, but name it, write it down, type it in your phone. It helps for both of us. So, and we were told it from other people who it helps. So, just write it down. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be formal. Just write whatever you're feeling down. And then find a way to ground yourself. We heard that she was doing meditation and breathing exercises, whereas I sometimes physically touch things in front of me. I also, if I'm in public and I cannot physically just randomly touch something because it makes me look absolutely silly, I'll try to move, whether it's like if you're sitting in a chair, moving your legs or moving your hands, or even sometimes like if I'm with my child and we're somewhere where it's appropriate to dance to a song, literally just like, hey, let's dance really quick. And like, you're just kind of wiggling and for me, it's kind of like a little bit of a reset, or maybe just putting that sudden like, oh my gosh, I'm in danger because now I'm dancing. So I cannot possibly be in danger when I'm dancing, right? And then like both of us are doing, talk about it. We both never met each other. We both have a podcast, available for people to sit and feel their feelings. You can talk about it. Like she said, there's benefits in even just listening to other people's stories to know that you're not alone. Me, I talk to my friends, I talk to my husbands. I finally found a therapist I love. And honestly, the biggest thing is just admitting it. Like, I will tell my husband, like, hey, I'm really not having a good mental health day today. I'm either really sad or I'm very anxious about stuff and I cannot make another decision. So please do not ask me what I want for dinner because I will not be capable of answering your question. And it's just, there's no shame in that because everybody goes through some sort of emotion where they just really can't do it. And we just need to be open, and if you're the person that is being told this, you also need to be open to receiving it, because sometimes just a simple like, hey, I can't do this right now. Like, I don't need you to talk to me about it. I don't want to talk about it, but I just need you to be aware that I'm not well right now and I cannot decide if I want a hamburger or a hot dog for dinner. So I guess what I'm trying to say is anxiety doesn't make you weak. It just means that your body is trying to protect you, and probably just a little bit too much, right? But we also need that, right? Because we do need to have our body wanting to protect us and wanting to protect us from actual, things that could hurt us. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, I wish I never had an anxiety, but you need that part of your body to help you so that you really do get out of those dangerous situations, in your fight or flight mode. All right, that's it for today. Next week, we're talking about borderline personality disorder, and it's a conversation we all need to hear. Thank you for being here, for being human, and for letting yourself feel. Just a reminder, this podcast is all heart, not healthcare. Please talk to a professional for medical advice. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon at Unfiltered Feels Podcast. So please give us a like or a follow, or just share this with someone who needs it. And don't forget, the things you're feeling, you're not alone. I'll see you next time.